Fiber Maze here with a special TV offer. Watch this video right now and learn how to program. What's going on, guys? FiberFlet here and welcome to Java Free. This is the third episode in our Java tutorial series. Now, I know in the last episode we said next episode we're going to be talking about conditional statements and but in this episode we're actually going to talk about conditional statements and while loops. In our last episode about loops, I didn't really talk about while loops that much, and they're very important and they're also really relevant to conditional statements. So I felt like it would be a perfect thing to have in this video. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is, of course, if statements, and don't get scared. It is a new variable type, but don't worry. The Boolean is not very scary. Let me show you guys what Boolean is. So Boolean is basically a variable that holds either the value true or the value false. That'll be used later on with if statements, where basically you do if and then a parameter, and then if that parameter is true, the code inside the brackets will execute, and if it's false, it won't. These are just some examples of if state of Booleans. Sorry, a Boolean, for instance, FiberFlet is cool. Of course, FiberFlet is cool, so that'd be true. A Boolean of is Karel J Robot cool? Of course, Karel J Robot is true. Is cool, so that would be true. And finally, we have Boolean, are cardigans cool? Of course, cardigans are not cool, so that will be false. So now we're going to talk about if statements. So I was talking about this on the last slide. An if statement, basically you do if, then parentheses, and you put in your parameter, and then your code that you want to execute if that parameter is true goes inside of these two brackets right here. Some if comparisons that are useful is equals equals, which is an equal sign, a greater than or less than sign, which means what they say, and sign, two and signs in a row means and two bars means or. So these are some examples of if statements. So using the Boolean that we had 2 slides ago is FiberFlet cool. Since that Boolean is true, our system would print out yes. This is an example using and. So for instance, if the Boolean value FiberFlet is cool and the Boolean variable cardigans are cool, if those are both true, since we're using and here, the system would print out yes, but since cardigans are not cool, that would be false. So this code would not execute. And finally, I'm showing a comparison of numbers right here. Numbers can also go right in if statements. That's honestly, for the most part, what if statements are used for in Java, is with numbers. So for instance, in this one, we have if 5 is less than 6, then system print out 5 is less than 6. In this case, 5 is less than 6, so this would be true. And that means this code would execute and it would print out 5 is less than 6. So the next thing we're going to talk about is an else statement. These are with if statements. This is, for the most part, think of it like a coin flip. Let's say if you had a variable that was like if heads, print out heads, you could just put else and have it print out the other option. So in this case, we have our first if statement, which is if is FiberFlet cool, you print out FiberFlet is cool. If that is false, then we go to the next else if statement, which is Karel J Robot cool? And if that is false, then finally the system prints out that nothing is cool. So basically it goes down the line. This is very good if you don't want multiple things happening with like a variable that you might edit through an if statement. You want to lock it out with else ifs. Basically only one of these things can happen in this hierarchy here. It can either print out Fiber is cool, Karel J Robot is cool, or nothing is cool. And it will never print out like 2 of these messages at once. And that's kind of like what else statements are used for. The next thing I want to talk about are while loops. I think actually in the first episode of the series, I showcased a while loop. So we're going to use a while loop in this episode. We're just going to type while true. Karel should turn left twice, and then he should start moving. And theoretically, he's going to hit this wall right here and commit error shutoff, and he should hit that wall shortly, and he's going to keep... Where's he going? Is he going into my super secret folder? Okay, wait a minute. Let's open up the super secret folder, and oh, he committed error shutoff inside of my super secret folder. Okay, that's strange. And basically, while loops will go on forever and 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 forever until they are interrupted. And they're typically interrupted by a parameter or a break statement. For instance, in video games specifically, a while loop would just have the parameter true and the loop would continuously doing like the main game loop. And the only way to exit that loop would be using a break statement. We're not going to be using break statements in this tutorial, so don't worry about it. But just keep it in the back of your head that break statements are a thing in Java, and they're mainly used like with video games, for instance. While loops in particular are very good if you don't know the exact amount of something that needs to happen. For loops will be used if you do know an exact amount. This example right here is just showing how to use a while loop like a for loop, just to show you kind of like how they work. So in this case, we have while Karel move is less than or equal to, greater than or equal to 0, Karel's gonna move, and then we use the Karel move variable. We subtract it by 1 each time we iterate through this loop, and basically this loop will stop once Karel move is equal to -1. So that means Karel would move 5 times. Like I said, this is just an example showing a while loop functioning like a for loop, just so you can kind of get the idea of how a while loop with a parameter works. When we go into our code section shortly, we're going to have actual examples of while loops and how they can function. So let's go ahead and get ready to code now. All right, guys, so now that we are in our BlueJ project, I'm going to go ahead and demo an example of while loops. We're going to rewrite the program that we did in our last episode, the one with Karel robbing the bank, with for loops, because honestly, it's kind of hard to count sometimes. Like I can try right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can only count to 4, dang it. But yeah, we're gonna rewrite this with while loops. We're gonna go ahead and do what all programmers love to do, copy and paste code. We're gonna go ahead and duplicate this first Karel.java. We're gonna go ahead and name it wow first Karel. We're gonna go ahead and open this up. The first thing we have to do is we're using a newer, better version of Karel. To have access to Karel's Boolean statements, we're gonna have to delete this UR part. This is a different Karel J robot object, and this robot class just basically has access to a lot more commands that UR robot doesn't have. In this case, we're going to be using 2 Boolean methods that Karel J robot has. The first one is front is clear. This returns true or false depending on if the front, the direction that Karel J robot is facing, if there's a wall or not. The other one we're going to use is Boolean next to a beeper, which basically returns true or false depending on if Karel is on a beeper or not. So for our first part, to make Karel move until he hits a wall, we're going to do simply while Karel.front is clear. We're going to have him move just like that. We're going to do Karel.move, and this should make this should make Karel J robot move until there's a wall in front of him, because the while loop first activates once. It checks if Karel's front is clear, and if it is, it returns true. So that'll make Karel move. And then when this is false, the while loop's gonna end. We're gonna go ahead and delete this for loop that we had earlier. Next, we're gonna tackle the next part of this problem, which is Karel J robot picking up beepers. We're simply gonna do another while loop. We're gonna do while Karel dot next to a beeper. We're gonna call that method. We're gonna have Karel pick a beeper. So it's basically the same concept as Karel moving. Basically, every single time Karel is on a beeper, it's gonna return true. So we know that Karel can pick up a beeper, and he'll pick up the 20 or so beepers that are in the first pile in the bank. The last part of this project that we need to handle with while loops is Karel moving until he hits a beeper. We're gonna have to use a not operator for this. So the way we're gonna do this is we're gonna do while Karel is not on a beeper. So how do we do that? So we're gonna first do Karel next to a beeper. The way this works is if Karel's on a beeper, it returns true, and if he's on a beeper, it returns false. We want Karel to move until he's on top of a beeper, which means that we need the opposite of this Boolean that's returned. The way we're gonna do that is in Java, you put an exclamation point at the start of this. That means that whatever Boolean is returned from this statement will be the opposite. So this will make Karel J robot move until he's on top of a beeper, because once he is on top of a beeper, this will return false instead of true. Okay, so now that we did that, we're going to go ahead and use the same concepts for the rest of the program. The free while loops that we used, we should be able to apply to the rest of the program, and it should work out. I'll be right back after I do that, and we'll go ahead and demo it. Alrighty, so we're back. We applied while loops to the whole program. And if we go ahead and run this program, Karel should effectively rob the bank only using while loops. This demo is just showing you how while loops can be utilized. Alrighty, as we can see, Karel has successfully robbed the bank. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into our next Karel J Robot scenario. Alrighty, guys, so in this scenario, to avoid the police, Karel J Robot must climb up this wall, scale down the wall, and then hide all of the beavers he stole from the beaver bank at the foot of the wall. The only issue is Karel J Robot doesn't know how tall this wall is or how many beavers are inside of his beaver bag. So to solve this problem, I'm gonna go ahead and go step by step and show you guys my code. The first thing we have to do is make a simple while loop to show to make Karel move to the foot of the wall. The way we're gonna do this is while Karel.front is clear, Karel J Robot's gonna go ahead and just move Karel.move. The next thing we're gonna have to do is make Karel.turn left so he's facing north. We're just going to Karel.turn left. I lied at the start of this video. We are gonna have to use a break statement to make this work without methods. We're gonna go ahead and type while true. So that means that the code in here is going to repeat on and on and on until we call the break command in Java right here. So what we are going to do is we want Karel to move up 1, turn around 3 times and check if a wall is there. And if it is, he has to turn left again and then move up. Basically, that's going to make Karel scale the wall. And then once Karel like turns fully around and doesn't detect the wall, then we know he'll be at the top. So the first thing we're going to do is we have to check if Karel is at the top or not. The way we're going to do this is by using a for statement. We're going to do for int I equal to 0, I is less than 3, and then I plus plus. We're going to have Karel turn left 3 times here, Karel.turn left. So once he has turned left 3 times, we know he would be facing a wall. So we're simply going to do an if statement. So if Karel.front is clear, if this returns true, we know Karel is at the top of the wall. So we're gonna go ahead and call a break statement. This is gonna end the while loop. If the front isn't clear, that means there is still a wall to Karel's left. So we're gonna go ahead and call else. We want Karel to turn left again, and then we're gonna have him move. We're gonna go ahead and compile our program and go ahead and test it. So if we did everything right, Karel should move up to the wall and then fully scale the wall. As we can see, Karel is fully scaling up the wall. So the next thing we're going to have to do is handle him going down the wall and placing the beepers. Okay, so now that we handled Karel J Robot going up the wall, we're going to have to handle him going down the wall. Now, we could use more while statements, but I think it's finally time to use some integers to get this done. We're going to make a new integer. It's going to be called int wall height. This variable is going to store our wall height. We're going to initialize it at 0. Every single time this while loop executes, we want the wall height to go up by 1. Specifically when this statement is called right here. We want the amount of times Karel J Robot moves up the wall. We're going to go ahead and take that. We're going to do wall height plus plus. I covered that in the first episode. This is just going to increase our wall height by 1 each time. And now we have the wall height stored. Now Karel J Robot knows how high the wall is because he climbed it. Next thing we have to do is we have to handle Karel gain in the right position to scale down the wall. The way we're going to do that is we're going to do Karel.turn left. We're going to do Karel.move so he's in the right spot. And then we have to make him turn left 3 times. So he's going to face south. We're going to copy this for loop earlier that we had, paste it down right here. And now that we know how tall the wall is, we're going to go ahead and do a for loop. We're going to do for int I equal to 0 again. We're going to do I is less than our wall height variable. And then we're going to do I plus plus. And we're going to simply just make Karel move for each of those steps. And that should have him scale down the wall successfully. We're going to go ahead and run the program real quick. You can see Karel has gone up the wall. This also avoids us having to check, and it's going to make the program faster. As you can see, Karel has successfully scaled down the wall and not commit error shut off. So now all we have to do is make Karel drop all of his beepers at the end. We've already done this. It's just the opposite of what we did. For pick beepers, we're going to do it with put beepers. So we're going to use the Boolean method, beepers in bag. We're going to go ahead and do a while loop. We're going to say while Karel.beepers in bag. Simply Karel.put beepers. Why is that erroring? All right, guys, we're back. I have the exact command written down right here. It should be any beepers in beeper bag. That is a very long statement, but as you can see, we programmed everything so CarJ Robot should successfully climb up the wall, climb down the wall, and put all of his beepers down. Alrighty, so we're gonna run our program now, and if it has successfully worked, CarJ Robot should climb up this wall very, very, very slowly. Sheesh. Carl's a little bit out of shape, and he should be placing all of his beepers right now. I guess I didn't add a command at the end that shows Karl J Robot moving out of the way, but once the program ends, we can go ahead and trust that Karl J Robot has no beepers inside of his beeper bag, and he didn't error out, which means it should have worked. So congratulations, guys. We have officially covered while loops and conditional statements. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Of course, if you did make it this far in this video, it'd mean a lot to me if you did like and subscribe. They just help support the channel and spread my content to more people. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about making our own Karl J Robot object, and of course, methods that will go along with that. Anyway, thank you guys all for watching again. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, night, morning, wherever you are. Have a good rest of your time. Anyway, goodbye, guys.